Rivers Cuomo joining us on the show right now. Rivers, thank you for being with us today. How are things in your world as you prepare to come to Las Vegas to play at the NFL draft of all things?
Pretty hectic. My wife had COVID last week and just came out of quarantine today, and we're finishing up our summer EP today, and I'm also starting the autumn EP today.
So for people that don't know what you guys have planned here for 2022, it's one of the most interesting things that I can recall any band deciding to do in advance. You're doing these new EPs and you're releasing one for each season, right? So spring and summer and fall. It's an interesting concept. How did that come to fruition for you guys? What made you decide to do that?
Well, the way I usually work is I just write songs without thinking about where they're going, and then just keep them in different Dropbox folders by musical genre or theme or emotion. And before long, about 2 years ago, I noticed I had four different folders, and I was like, well, how could I present four different albums? And I just figured, oh well, I guess they could each be a season.
Did you have to like rejigger some of the songs and where they were sitting? Cause you're like, that's not a fall song. That's going spring.
Lots of rejiggering was involved.
How fun though. I mean, I like that you guys always, it seems like you're always working to try new things. I mean, Mahoney and I were talking about it this morning. Back when I was, before I started doing a radio show, I used to do a fake radio show. In fact, my mom actually sent me a little tape of me and my buddy Rick. We used to do a fake radio show on the station that we called KPIG. And the playlist was on there for one of them. And one of the songs was My Name is Jonas from the Blue album. And we were talking about how you guys have been a band now for well over 30 years, but you're still always working to try to make things fresh. Is that just for your own amusement and entertainment, or do you find that the fans really are kind of clamoring for that from Weezer?
Um, yeah, it's mainly for our amusement. Like I just in general, I like variety in life, and except for my relationship with my wife, which is going to stay the same forever. I like I like to be very unfaithful and just jump from thing to thing, and um, I think some fans really enjoy it, and some fans are want a particular version of Weezer, and it's cool. I get it.
So with the NFL draft that's coming up on Thursday, how did that come about for you guys? And are you an NFL fan yourself?
Well, before I wanted to be a rock star, I wanted to be a professional football player. And
Did?
yeah, I was a big fan of the Steelers back when they had that amazing run at the end of the 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And I had every intention of joining the Steelers. And then by the time I got to high school, though, I realized I wasn't going to cut it physically. I was going to turn out to be very small. So it took me a year or two, and then I finally figured out, oh, I can be a rock star and still hear the cheer of the crowd and get some of the same thrills.
How interesting that because your career in the NFL never would have lasted for this long, right? It's just interesting that
yeah,
being a rock star was the much more prudent choice.
Turned out for the best. Yeah.
You do have a long history with Las Vegas. You played the Centennial Celebration with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think that was in 2005, 2006. One of the absolute best shows I've ever seen in my life. It's top two, without a doubt. I mean, just the energy that day had. Love that. Love that you're coming into town for the NFL draft. But one of my early experiences with Weezer, I don't know if it was common for a lot of people my age, but the very first digital music video that I ever experienced and just reiterated the fact of how cool Weezer was the Buddy Holly video off of Windows 95. No idea it came on there, and didn't even know at the time back then that video was possible on computers. But I remember my dad, who was working in IT at the time, brought home Windows 95, and he said, hey, look at this. You might think it's kind of cool. And there in front of us, the first digital video that I ever experienced was that Buddy Holly video from Windows 95. What was that experience like? Did you know that was going to be on there, and do people still even bring that up years later, even though, we're 25 years past that point now?
Yeah, people still bring it up. At the time, no one asked our approval. I think it was like a lower level person at the record company went ahead and made it happen. And, we were all quite shocked, like, oh, our video is going to be in this new issue of Windows. And uh, it turned out for the best because, like you said, years later, people of a certain generation, well, that it just totally blew their minds and introduced them to the band. And we've been connected in some sense ever since.
You guys have continued to embrace technology. Obviously, I got turned on to Weasel, the Wordle Weezer version, which got it yesterday, I believe, into the second guest. Moist, I believe, was the word, and which I love that that's what my second guess went to. But you've also embraced, putting out some of your older material in Weezify, and we've got Weezer NFTs that are on the horizon as well. I saw some of those have been minted. But how do you think technology and music technology has affected your music moving forward in this day as it continues to evolve?
Well, yeah, definitely is increased productivity, like the seasons thing we are just talking about. Having, I just have this massive stockpile of old ideas in Dropbox folders and old demos and spreadsheets of song titles and lyric ideas, and like I'm never at a loss for material. And back in the day, if it was all like on cassette tapes and like voice recorders and old notebooks, and it would be very hard to keep track of all that stuff. But in my laptop, it's all right there. It's easily sortable and filterable, and we can keep moving really quickly.
So we do a Twitch stream every day of the radio show, and we had mentioned today that we were going to be chatting with you a little bit later, and asked if there was any pressing questions that people had. And one of them that came up, I thought was interesting, and it leans into what Mahoney was talking about earlier with your guys' long history with Las Vegas. Is there any thought, would you guys ever consider a residency in Las Vegas?
Yeah, absolutely. We're just starting to toss it around, and might have something to do with the Seasons project, where we could at least do 4 nights, if not longer, or maybe 4 nights a week for many weeks. And that would be like each one night would be each night would be a season plus a bunch of other cool catalog songs.
So it's a possibility. All right, kicking the tires on it. Final question for you about the NFL draft with that performance. What is it like for you creatively when they approach you with this kind of really sort of weird one-off of doing a show at something that is not a concert at all, but it's a spectacle in its own right? How do you guys like wrap your head around creating something that is uniquely Weezer in an environment like that, that's just sort of all over the place?
Well, I don't know. I don't think too much about it other than the actual people in the room. I just want to have a great time with the people, the humans that are right there in front of us. And I'm excited because I've never been there before, but I'm assuming it's going to be like high energy, high level of aggression, people wanting to rock out. And not every concert is like that. We play all different kinds of festivals. So I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've covered the NFL draft for the last 7 or 8 years now, and it's just it's a fascinating night because so many lives are changing, and a lot of guys know where they're going or where they're projected to go in the draft, and especially in that first round. But it's such an interesting, tense moment where there's some guys that are totally surprised by the fact that they got drafted that early, and they're family and friends are all there and they're freaking out and they're walking up on stage, and you just think about the possibilities of how your life is going to shape. And, in that moment, when you find out what team you're going to, thinking about how you fit into that environment, it really is a special night on so many levels. So the fact that they asked you guys to be a part of it is
precursor to a halftime show, I hope.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, just a really interesting night. I think that you guys will find it to really be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for that backstory. I hadn't thought about all of that. It is more exciting than I thought even.
Yeah, and of course, Las Vegas is going to do it as extra as Las Vegas always does, right? With the stage for the red carpet out in the Fountains of Bellagio and all of that. So it's going to be a really, really interesting night, and can't wait for you guys to come to town in a couple of days. And I hope that the kicking of the tires on the residency here in Las Vegas continues, because that would be a lot of fun for all of us.
Same here.
Great to talk to you, Rivers. Thanks for your time today.
All right, take it easy.
Take care, man.